I am Tarsem, the director of Dear Jassi.
So, first question after being at the screening yesterday. Are you like that when you were shooting? Demanding?
Well, never in front of actors. Because I can do pretty much everybody's job, but I cannot do what they do, the magic that they bring. If that kind of tension is around on a set, it never works. So nobody's ever allowed to raise their voices in a set. You just go like when you do this particular one, no matter what happens, put your phones over there, do this thing over there, and then at the same time when you go to a theater like this where people are just showing up, it's a cultural thing where they just think it's not offensive to have a phone on and be working on something else. And I just said like, no, not while I'm here. So you make those calls, and I had to be demanding about it, and still they managed to slip up a whole bunch of things.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from Greece.
Greece, okay.
Yeah. Okay, and tell me a bit, how did you stumble upon this story?
Well, this phenomena has been, unfortunately, in the Indian subculture, or I would say the Asian subculture for quite some time, be it for economics or religious or cultural reasons, that if a person goes out of the station, they take such a drastic effect if somebody marries out of their comfort zone of the family. So for me, I'd heard, this one was only special because I'd heard that the particular time the people who had kidnapped the girl called the mother. And I just thought like, that is really unique. And the lines that they said, the mother said, was so disturbing to me that I just said, I will make a movie about this where this is the last scene. So I had the last scene, I knew nothing about anything before. So I wanted to make that film, and it was 23 years ago. So I told my brother, we make this movie right now, or at least 20 years when it becomes retro. And then suddenly I went and did The Fall, and did a whole bunch of other things, and then I was thinking I want to do something in India, and somebody asked me, do you want to do a commercial? I said, I do, but I've got this small film. They said, we'll do anything you want to do. And I just said, okay, you might not want to. I told them the story. They just said, does that mean you will come and do other films with us? I said, yes. So they did this with that, and we got to make the movie. After 23 years of not just having it there in the back of my head, we made it within a few months. And there is no coverage, so I edited it also. When we finished shooting, within 48 hours, the film is how you see it. It just went like this.
And do you think that this thing applies today also, like this kind of racism between...
It is not racism. It's a cultural thing. But yes, it applies always, and it is not something that, unfortunately, that's the bad thing about making it 20 years later, that people go like, oh, so that was then. I'll go like, absolutely not. It's been going on forever, and it goes on.
And how is love in this setting of hate all over the place? How does it
Well, it's supposed to conquer all, but at least it puts your adrenaline in such a level that you don't care about the results of anything else. You just say, you know what, I'm going to go forward with this. Maybe they would have divorced 2 years later. Maybe the cultural thing of him not speaking the language and all that, they would have been so hard, they wouldn't have survived it. And that happens a lot. But if they're willing to gamble everything and go for it, it's nobody else's business, if they are adults, to say, go ahead, take the chance.
And what about the police? You paint them in very dark colors in the movie. Corrupt,
the politicians?
Violent.
I don't think so. I think the problem is the corruption. But it isn't particularly political. Just in India, or in this part, especially third world part of the world, the corruption is taken very much as the cost of doing business, which is horrible. But it's been around for a long time. It's got honorable names like Bakshish and blah blah and grant and all that. But it's a horrible thing that needs to be weeded out. So you innocently think it's actually for free, but none of that is for free. The judge or so-and-so gets a position because he paid so-and-so politician, he has to pay it back, so he will take bribes, he calculates in 2-3 years with how many bribes I'll be able to pay the person who gives me the position. Everybody's calculated that out. So it's so ingrained in the DNA that it's not even thought about. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I have to do.
But in general, would you say that India is a violent country, a violent society, you think?
Not as much as any more different than the rest of the world. No. I wouldn't say it's particularly violent, but the world is violent.
And what do you think about violence in movies? It's a tool?
No, I don't think the cool should be a factor for showing violence in films, but world is violence, and if we show film about the world, violence should be shown.
And tell me a bit about the casting. How did it work for the movie?
Well, for this particular one, I just wanted the people to be as much from the real place as possible. So for me, the guy, I just said, they never need to be actors. If they're actors from the right place, I will make it happen. They burned the guy who was a kabaddi player, and I had to find the girl in 24 hours. And I just found her from a dance group and everything. So it made, and I never met her. I just was cycling and I saw a photograph, talked to her for 5 minutes, and I just said, get on the plane. So don't need to read any lines, don't need to do any of those things.
Okay. And a bit about cinematography, what you wanted to do in the visual aspect of the film.
That I wanted to keep this very little for what I'm usually known cinematically of doing. Usually I'm known for a lot more spectacular stuff, but this was much more in the realm of how the Iranians make their films. So it was much more a subject matter of how somebody like Gaspar Noir or Haneke subject matter, but it's shot like how the Iranians shoot their films. And I just thought like the subject matters from one side, but the approach is from another side. And the two don't really mix. And I just thought it'd be interesting to see what would happen if Gaspar Noir wrote a script and it got directed by Farhadi. So that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Okay. And how is the Hindi movie industry at the moment? How will you
I know nothing about it. It's just like I spend so much. I'm abroad most of the time. When people ask me, I just go like, I used to see 2 to 3 movies a day when I could in my teens. And when I left India, I've seen one Hindi movie in 35 years. So I know nothing about it.
Okay. Since we have a bit more time, tell me, which was the most difficult scene to shoot?
Actually, really strangely, another reason, and yesterday somebody asked me too that, and he mentioned that, and I realized how difficult it was, because everything was very easy to just choreograph and let happen in front of the camera. But we went back and we had one technical issue, because whenever they're talking on the phone, she was on the phone about 10 blocks, like 10 rooms down. So they could talk to each other, so it was all natural. But when I went back to reshoot one scene that we had a technical problem with, because the person who played her mom and her dad didn't get the Canadian visa, so I had to recast them. So when I had to come back to shoot this particular scene, I had to give him a phone, but there was nobody in the phone, and he had to call her a bitch and call her this and that, and I kept doing take after take. It just wasn't working, and then I think it barely survived because I didn't want to cut. I wanted to just be on his face, and it was very difficult to shoot because by now he was an actor. And we shot it when the movie was finished, so it was okay.
Okay. And the last question, I guess, future projects, what are you working on next?
I think I'm probably going to do a really big action flick in India.
Really?
I'd like to do something. Well, I don't know if it'll be Bollywood because the budget is a bit big for Bollywood to be able to endure. So it might actually be a mixture of Hollywood and Bollywood.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much.